So, I'm Courtney, and I watched Makers Part 1.
I'm Ryan, and I watch Misrepresentation. Yeah, and so I guess I'll start by explaining like what mine was about. So mine was
Okay.
a documentary talking about how media portrays women and how it can influence the way women think about themselves and things of that nature.
Mine followed different, like starting the kind of in the 1950s, but mainly in the 1960s, of like different woman influences and like famous people who um, helped the women's movement. And there was the first woman on there who ever ran the Boston Marathon. I think it was like 1967, and it had, I can never remember her name, Betty something from Feminine, who wrote the Feminine Mystique,
Oh, I know who
and
you're talking about.
yeah, and Judy Blume, who were all those books. So
Yeah,
a bunch of authors. So yeah, I had at least those who appeared in part 1. I didn't watch part 2 or part 3, but like Hillary Clinton and Oprah and stuff appeared in the later ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I love the 1950s portrayal of women, which is also something that I saw within my movie. Is because my favorite TV show was called Mad Men, and I love the TV show because they spoke about it. It's basically for me, it was about a male character, but it shed light on the lives of women, which I really really enjoyed about that whole entire show. And I really didn't know that's why I love the show so much until I took this class, but also I watched this movie because they were talking about how one of the women who was being interviewed in this documentary was an actress from Mad Men. She was in Mad Men, and she was talking about how little roles they have in Hollywood for diverse women. Like
Mm-hmm.
the roles always pertain or revolve around men. And I sat back and I started thinking about the 1950s and what was portrayed in Mad Men, and every women had a story in the show, but all of
Yeah.
their stories revolved around men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that media portrays. It was interesting to see this because I got an insight on how I personally think about women because of the things that I watch. And I wanted
Yeah.
to pose a question to you. Basically, I want to ask you like, how does media make you feel as a woman?
Um, my biggest issue with media is the body shaming and like the ideal of your perfect woman is the biggest issue I've ever really at least taken in. But I also don't watch a whole lot of movies or TV. I don't really have the time to.
Yeah.
So I probably don't notice probably all the other stuff about the lack of women's roles or even like the roles that women constantly are portrayed in.
Yeah.
I know when I took my Japanese film and literature class, we had to um, really focus on, we were watching a bunch of Japanese film and how Japanese women were portrayed. And I did notice in like that class that there was a lot, like Japanese women were portrayed very much as the like submissive, quiet, um, teeny tiny like housewives type of thing, which is still how we kind of see them nowadays, which is weird because it's kind of how we as America were kind of like back in the 1950s.
Yeah. I
So,
I love. I've never thought to ask a woman how she felt about the media. It has never crossed my mind. But
mm-hmm.
also like while watching the film that I chose, I kind of started questioning myself and how I've always thought of myself as a person who uplifts women, and I didn't
Yeah,
realize that I don't. Um,
yeah,
I actually enjoy the characters that are in the movies of women. I've always thought that like like movies that show women as superheroes was I thought it was good. I thought it was a good thing, but they pointed out a writer of a TV show or of movies. He wrote a. He was talking about how they tend not when they write, they tend not to write women as human beings. They write them as humans, Even like regular women, not even superheroes, because he's a man and he writes about women. So the insight is only about what men think of women because he's writing it. Which is why it's so important for women to be writers, and like shows like Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder. That's why it's so important, because yes, it still sexualizes women, but I feel like it's sexualizing women on women's terms.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, that nobody can truly write about women unless you are a woman. So
yeah.
Ours, I had a little bit of media in mind, but it was more like media as far as like advertisements and different advertisements people were doing. And there was one like for a ketchup bottle from the 1950s that like even a woman can open it, or something like so easy even a woman can do it.
Yeah.
Or like there's a coffee one from Maxwell that was let me teach you how to make coffee, and
it's the meaning.
Like, and that's how it was. So like that's how we were portrayed as just being like dumb and useless almost.
In the textbook it actually spoke about how advertisers, like even in Mad Men, the show, they worked. Their advertisement wasn't for anybody but women, because women bought. Like, if you were a middle class woman, you were usually a housewife and you went to the grocery store and you bought things. So they were focused on attracting women to buy things.
Yeah, but we did, and we bought them.
That's what's interesting. It's just like I wouldn't. I guess I can't speak because I'm not a woman, but I wouldn't feel comfortable buying something that says even a woman can do it.
Yeah.
But it's also like, that's why I love the women's liberation movement, even though the reason I loved it so much is because they were fighting to change the mindset of human beings and not just political movements. They were trying to change the thought process, which was moving to me.
My movie touched on both the women's liberation and the now, and it was more about women's liberation, but talked about how now is focusing on like political, and how now is more trying to enter into the world and kind of leave things as is, but just enter into it, whereas the women's liberation was trying to like change minds and change ideas and just kind of like make a whole change as a society altogether.
Yeah. Do you feel like as a woman, because I feel like it's my responsibility after taking this class, and after, it's my responsibility to start asking women the questions about women and stop having this conversation with men. As a woman, do you feel like, which one bears more fruit? Do you feel like going for things politically or trying to change the mindset of men in general works best? So basically my question is, do you side now with the Now organization, or do you side more with the women's liberation?
I don't think I can truly side with either one of them, because I think without both, and not to say that like there's still like women's oppression and stuff going on, it's still not 100% equal, but I think without both of them we would never succeed to where we are now, because you need the politics, you need to change what is going on in the federal system and laws, but at the same time you need to change the ideologies of other people too to accept it, because yes, it's a law, but we've seen through lots of stuff, civil rights and stuff, there's always ways around it. So without changing the mindset of others, it's really not going to make a difference.
Yeah, I've also thought about the platform of like when I have conversations with women, I don't ask them the tough questions. Like, okay, if I'm talking to a man, my first question would, if I'm just having a regular conversation, it would be, we would talk about politics, we would talk about Donald Trump and what's going on. And when you talk to women, they were talking about in the movie how like their question is, what's your favorite pair of shoes? What's your favorite brand or stuff like that? But I could ask you, how do you feel about what's going on in the politics today? Which is something that I actually want to work on and change within myself. Is I didn't even notice I did it until I watched this movie.
That's funny. That's not something that I necessarily see personally, because the people I surround myself with, it's talking about everything from politics to shoes, like, and this is with my guy friends, my girlfriends, and everything. So also just kind of depends. It's like the type of people you hang around.
Yeah, I think that's true. Also, I hang around a lot of male dominance, which is not okay, and that's something that needs to change. I really encourage, actually, after watching this is something that I really want to say before. Yeah, we have like 5 more minutes or so, but I really want to say this. Women are the backbone of everything that we've accomplished in this country, and they've never been the forefront though, which is actually very upsetting to me. When I was watching the movie and when I read the textbook, I read our chapters. Women always, if it wasn't for women in these organizations, because a lot of organizations that men had, women were involved with, or they were rallying behind or making things happen. I guarantee you that men weren't sitting around making signs for different protests. I guarantee you that men weren't sitting around running flyers for different protests. It was all women. So without women, we wouldn't accomplish the things that we accomplished. But it's sad to say that, like, men are the face of all the struggles or all the things that we've overcome in the country.
And it's crazy because it's still, and so I grew up in Cary, North Carolina, and I grew up very different upbringing, but my mom's the one that worked and my dad's the one that stayed at home. And it's funny to see the different mindsets, because when I came out here to move to Greensboro for school, I worked in Burlington, which is, you know, it's starting to get a lot bigger, but for the most part, people live outside of Burlington. It's more small, rural. And it's funny sitting there talking with them and how, like, they all still believe that there's this, like, still mindset that, like, I am the woman, I need to go home and cook, and even though they're working, they go home and cook dinner every night. And it's just crazy because, like, that was never my mindset. That's not how I was raised.
Yeah.
And I think it's weird how upbringing and surroundings and stuff really play into how you see women's rights, and maybe even going into, like, what you were talking about, like, how you communicate or would talk to different women or different questions you would ask them.
Yeah. All my women, on all my jobs, all my bosses have been women. So it's very, I don't know, I think back on, like, me being in high school and working at a grocery store and my boss being a woman, and, like, I just think back on stuff that I didn't realize. Sometimes I felt like I used to always say, I'm like, I don't understand why she's so mean. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand why she's so mean. And now that I think about it, it's like, she wasn't being mean. She had to be, like, twice as good to, like, keep her job. Because if it was a man that was walking around doing the same things that she did to me, I wouldn't have really thought about it as mean. I would have thought about it as, oh, he's just getting the job done. And that's where I just feel like, you know, I feel like my upbringing, because I was raised by all women, I feel like my upbringing kind of taught me to respect women. But I feel like because my family is from the deep South, they've always had an appreciation for men, and, like, a deep appreciation for men, and they taught me how to be a man who kind of, like, takes without I don't know how to explain it. Basically, how they taught me how a woman is basically supposed to, like, you're the man of the household and you're supposed to take care of the house, you're supposed to pay the bills. But we never had the conversation of, even though my mom raised me, we never had the conversation of a woman can do it too. It didn't even click in my head. I saw my mom raising me and stuff, but it didn't click in my head, like, these are conversations that women can have too. Women know how to pay bills. Women know how to go to work. You know,
there's this thing about how, so there's one of these people in my movie was a single mom of 3, and she had to work. She worked as, like, one of the tele people with the teleoperations, and she was trying to go for a better job, but they would deny her because it was unsafe to lift, like, something that was 30 pounds, equipment that was 30 pounds for a woman.
Yeah.
She made this thing, like, I am, the men's supposed to be the breadwinner, but when I go into the grocery store as a woman, they don't like, drop some cents from the bread because I'm the one sitting there working and making money. Like, she's like, I still have to make all the money to provide for my family and nothing, and it doesn't get cheaper.
Yeah.
So, it was that's something that hit me. I was like, wow, that's you're the breadwinner, but everything's the same price. So why would we make less than like a guy would?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Hold on. Somebody's at my front door. But I'll let somebody else get it. But I also, one thing that I also want to highlight is I was at church and the preacher was preaching and he was basically talking about how in America we African Americans like are at the height of African American males. The stats for suicide is like very high because we feel like we have to be everything. We feel like we have to provide. We have to. We feel like we're not supposed to take from others. And I'm learning that's not the case. Hold on a moment. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm learning that if I feel like this society or what we grew up in has kind of taught us because we don't value women as we should. I think it's kind of taught some men, and I want to change this thought process of how we raise young boys because I feel like we're teaching young men to grow up and feel like we have to do it all alone and that we're supposed to always have the answers. But in all actuality, it's equality, and I feel like women have a strong mindset, and without women, and without you all like supporting us, and I don't know, without you all's ideas, you all's thought process, the way you all carry yourselves, we wouldn't have made it this far. So I feel like in all actuality, in my opinion, I feel like men need to take a minute and take a step back and let women take the lead for a second. I don't know. It was just really something that touched home when because I don't know. I believe in stuff coming into the world, or the stuff that I hear. I believe it's like a purpose behind it. And when I started reading this chapter, and then I watched this movie, and then I went to church, and I heard the preacher say that, it really just gelled everything together. Like, you know, men, we can't do it by ourselves, and we wouldn't be where we are without women. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
We're at 17 minutes, so is that all you want to say about your movie?
That was good.
Okay, that's our last one.
Yeah.